Chen's rivalry. Coincidentally, they were dubbed the twin stars of the southern province, with Chen holding the second rank. Lufan's shock was palpable. Chen, too, was a dragon tamer. Lufan politely requested permission to rest first, as the long journey had left his aunt exhausted. Miss Guhan granted his wish and instructed him to prepare for the new student orientation the following day. Miss Guhan then introduced the villa area where they would reside. Only the top 30 rankings were permitted to occupy these luxurious villas, and Lufan, as the top scorer, was assigned Villa number 1. Though Chen had secured second place in the southern province, his comprehensive ranking placed him at 18th. Thus, he would reside in Villa number 18. Lufan suspected Chen had accepted Jinzhu's offer to become his loyal subordinate. The idea of them being called twin stars now struck him as utterly absurd. As for Chiu and the others, they would be lodged in the standard dormitories. Miss Guhan offered to escort them there personally. However, Aunt Han asked to stay with Lufan instead. She had always lived with him after all. Miss Guhan pondered briefly. There were no explicit rules against it, provided the neighbors raised no objections. Aunt Han sought Lufan's opinion, teasing that he might no longer want her cooking. Lufan immediately denied it and warmly welcomed her to stay. To everyone's surprise, Aunt Han then dragged Xiaoman and Chiu along to live with them, leaving Chiu flustered and wide-eyed. With little choice, Lufan awkwardly extended a polite invitation. Besides, if he ever wanted to invite them on a hunt, he'd save himself the trouble of trekking halfway across campus to find them. Chiu and Xiaoman bashfully accepted. Instead of gratitude, Lufan received a sharp warning from Xiaoman. Don't you dare try anything funny with Chiu. Suddenly, the system alerted Lufan. The Divine Treasure Map's marked location was none other than Villa number 2. Lufan inquired about the occupant's identity, but Miss Jiu knew nothing. Her jurisdiction covered only the southern province's affairs. The sole detail she could provide was that the resident was a woman. Lufan instructed his aunt to settle into their villa first while he paid a visit to his mysterious neighbor. Delighted by his sudden sociability, Aunt Han encouraged him to bring the girl a gift. She chuckled softly, mistaking his curiosity for romantic interest. Proof, she thought, that her nephew was finally growing up. Lufan rang the doorbell, clutching a box of Aunt Han's homemade pastries. He hoped the girl would appreciate the gesture. After a long wait, the door finally opened. Standing before him was a stunningly beautiful girl. She remained silent, her piercing gaze fixed on him, her expression calm yet unnervingly intense. Unnerved by her unfriendly demeanor, Lufan awkwardly introduced himself as her neighbor, expressing hopes for a harmonious coexistence. Silence stretched between them, thickening the air with discomfort. Abruptly, the girl snatched the pastry box from his hands. Ying, she stated tersely, her only introduction. Grasping for an excuse to enter, Lufan claimed he was parched and asked for a glass of water. Internally, he cringed at the flimsiness of his lie. Anyone would see through it. Yet, to his astonishment, Ying wordlessly stepped aside, granting him entry. Though grateful, Lufan found her silence baffling. Once inside, Ying shut the door behind them, but Lufan had already vanished from her side, leaving her bewildered by his erratic behavior. Meanwhile, Lufan darted through the villa, single-mindedly hunting for the treasure. He flung open a bedroom door, only to find scattered clothes and undergarments on the bed. Clearly, not his target. Next, he checked the adjacent room, a bathroom. The third door revealed what he sought, a luminous green dragon egg pulsing with energy. Just as he'd guessed, the second reward was indeed a dragon egg, a jade dragon egg. Snatching it, he spun around to leave, only to collide with Ying, who held a glass of water for him. Flustered, Lufan excused himself, claiming his thirst had vanished. He promised to meet her properly at the opening ceremony tomorrow. Suspicion flickered in Ying's eyes. She swiftly inspected her villa. Discovering her bedroom door ajar, she concluded Lufan was a pervert. That night, inside Lufan's villa, Nyx stared intently at the glowing green dragon egg. Without hesitation, Lufan activated his dragon taming skill, binding the creature to his will. Success! The egg shattered, birthing a tiny, wide-eyed dragon. Unlike Nyx's ferocious debut, this one was docile and adorable, its demeanor utterly disarming. A Jade Dragon, its skills included Life Spring, healing nearby allies, Jade Light, removing debuffs, boosting attributes by 30% and blocking one attack, and Natural Assimilation, absorbing items to gain their effects as skills. Lufan realized this dragon was a support type. Its spirit attribute exceeded 600, and its abilities were purely defensive. One skill, however, stood out, Jade Dragon Bloodline, which doubled all dragon skills or blood connections. The implications thrilled him. Combined with Nyx's buffs, his attack power would skyrocket to 12,000. Nyx, rather than welcoming its new sibling, immediately began bullying the hatchling. The feisty Jade Dragon retaliated, sinking its teeth into Nyx's thigh. The ensuing ruckus shattered the knight's peace, forcing Lufan to intervene. Scooping up the tiny dragon, Lufan bestowed a name, Faye. Overjoyed, Faye nuzzled him, officially joining the family as Nyx's little sister. Nyx, however, refused to accept her, and their squabbling resumed. The next day, Chiu inquired about the commotion that had occurred in Lufan's room the previous night. Before Lufan could even answer her, suddenly the academy students erupted into hysteria upon spotting two beautiful girls standing beside Lufan. They lavished praise on Chiu and Xiaoman, declaring them the campus's most dazzling flowers. Their minds wandered, fantasizing about venturing into the secret realm accompanied by beauties like them, even dreaming of becoming their lovers. Some swore they would lay down their lives to protect Xiaoman and Chiu, but one student snapped them out of their delusions, pointing out that Lufan was already by their side. Chiu and Lufan bid farewell to Xiaoman, as those with hidden professions were required to sit in the front row, while Xiaoman, not bearing such a title, had to take her seat elsewhere. As Lufan settled in, his gaze met Hongwu's intense stare. There was something eerily familiar about that figure. Then, it struck him. Hongwu was that passionate martial artist from the grand exam, burning with unrelenting determination. Lufan offered him a warm, friendly smile. Hongwu, however, only scowled in return. The memory resurfaced, the first headmaster mocking Hongwu, mistakenly believing he had taken the top spot when, in truth, his score paled in comparison to Lufan's. Seething with humiliation, Hongwu had sworn to find an opportunity to beat Lufan senseless for the disgrace he had suffered in front of the headmaster. Meanwhile, Xiaoman frowned, displeased by the blatant discrimination based on profession types. As Lufan and Chiu took their seats, they accidentally noticed Ying already seated in the front row. Awkwardly, Lufan greeted her. Ying merely glanced at him before falling back into silence. They sat beside her, and Lufan explained to Chiu that Ying was their neighbor from Villa number 2. The other students watched in bitter envy as Lufan continued to be surrounded by stunning girls. Just then, the vice headmaster stepped forward, commanding the students to settle down. Vice Headmaster Sheng Ming, a formidable thunder mage of level 78, radiated authority. He despised idle chatter and wasted no time in distributing the students' ID cards. These cards would automatically store their personal points. They could be used for various needs within the academy, purchasing potions, weapons, or even gaining access to the secret realm. Lufan inspected his ID card, discovering a staggering total of 13,539 points, allocated based on his final exam performance. One student stood up, questioning the fairness of the point distribution system, given the varying difficulty levels across regions. The vice headmaster explained that scores were adjusted using regional coefficients. For instance, the southern province, known for its brutal difficulty, had the smallest coefficient, 96. However, these points were temporary. Rankings would be updated monthly based on achievements. The top 30 students earned the privilege of entering the blue class, granting them exclusive benefits, access to the secret realm, the ability to exchange equipment and skill books, and the right to reside in the Villa district. Whispers spread among the students. Some had never heard of the blue class, while others already plotted their rise to the Villa's luxury. The vice headmaster made it clear, blue class members couldn't afford complacency. Any student could challenge them, and the challenged had no right to refuse. Worse, defeat meant losing their coveted position. And at the pinnacle of the blue class rankings sat Lufan, the dragon tamer. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. How could a dragon tamer claim the top spot? Some suspected foul play, nepotism perhaps. Chiu sensed the vice headmaster's deliberate provocation, nudging the students to challenge Lufan. Yet Lufan remained unfazed, responding with calm amusement. By noon, the welcoming ceremony had concluded. Lufan invited Chiu and Xiaoman to enter the secret realm for some level grinding. But before they could take a step, Hongwu's voice rang out from behind, issuing a direct challenge. Miss Guhan and the vice headmaster exchanged glances, anticipating an entertaining spectacle. They were eager to witness Lufan's true strength firsthand. Lufan blinked in disbelief. The ceremony had barely ended, and already a challenger stood before him. Hongwu brimmed with confidence, declaring that Lufan had no right to refuse. He sneered, theorizing that Lufan's rank was solely due to his dragon. He would crush Lufan before the beast could intervene. Unperturbed, Lufan accepted the challenge with a shrug. Hongwu added stakes, 200 points if Lufan somehow won. Lufan agreed. Chiu, however, grew anxious, attempting to intervene. Jinzhu nudged Chen, urging him to seize this chance to observe Lufan's abilities. Hongwu dropped into a battle stance, the signature posture of a martial artist ready to strike. Xiaoman bit her lip in worry, but Chiu reassured her. She would understand soon enough. The moment the fight began, Hongwu channeled energy into his fists and lunged at Lufan with a furious strike. Hongwu unleashed his chi accumulation strike, a technique that dealt double damage when striking an enemy's weak point. Suddenly, Lufan vanished from his sight, causing Hongwu's attack to whiff through empty air. In the next breath, Lufan materialized behind Hongwu, casually praising the power of the strike, though it had failed to touch him. It seemed he had employed Flash Leap, a blink ability with a 50-meter range. With a mocking grin, Lufan provoked Hongwu, urging him to come at him with everything he had. Infuriated, Hongwu channeled another skill. A swirling vortex of golden energy coalesced around his fists. He hurled the energy forward, unleashing a devastating chi wave straight toward Lufan. With inhuman speed, Lufan darted toward Hongwu, weaving effortlessly through the barrage of attacks. In a flash, he pivoted, aiming a crushing kick at Hongwu's defenses. Reacting swiftly, Hongwu activated Solid as Rock skill. The technique harnessed Qi to form an impenetrable shield, each point of Qi bolstering his defense by 5%. No opponent with a strength stat below 280 could hope to breach it. Unfortunately for Hongwu, Lufan's attributes far exceeded that threshold, amplified by his draconic bond. A single kick shattered the barrier. The impact sent Hongwu hurtling backward, wounds blooming across his body. The observing disciples gaped in disbelief. How could a mere dragon tamer defeat Hongwu with nothing but his bare hands? Lufan strode forward, disdain lacing his voice as he derided Hongwu's weak skills, admitting he hadn't even broken a sweat. Jinzhu murmured to Chen, questioning his odds against Lufan. Chen, brimming with confidence, estimated a 70% chance of victory if he received Princess Jinzhu's buffs. Without ceremony, Lufan swiped Hongwu's ID card, claiming his points. He did so with visible satisfaction. After all, they had a prior wager, and Hongwu had been the one to challenge him. Hongwu's eyes widened in shock upon seeing Lufan's point total 13,739. The realization struck him like lightning. Factoring in the Southern Province coefficient, Lufan's actual exam score stood at 1.3 million. In stark contrast, Chen, the second-ranked disciple, barely scraped 210,000. A bitter laugh escaped Hongwu. How foolish he'd been to think he stood a chance. Later, in the Secret Realm's preparation room, Aunt Han rushed to Lufan's side. Fretful that someone had challenged him so soon, Lufan reassured her with a calm smile. Xiaoman remained incredulous. If Lufan could trounce Hongwu alone, how terrifying would he be alongside his dragon? Chiu, meanwhile, cheered wildly, lauding his strength. Lufan gestured for everyone's attention, directing it toward the secret realm he'd selected, Poison Spider Forest, a level 45 realm with Fear class difficulty, requiring a minimum of 5 participants and 45 points for entry. Aunt Han paled. The realm's level dwarfed theirs, but Lufan remained unshaken. Xiaoman pointed out another problem. They only had 4. Just as Lufan scanned the room for a 5th member, Chiu excitedly nudged him toward a lone figure nearby. Lufan's gaze landed on Ying, who happened to be searching for a party herself. Approaching awkwardly, Lufan greeted him, earning a startled glance. Ying's eyes narrowed, her expression icy. Misunderstanding still festered between them. Undeterred, Lufan extended an invitation. Ying was without a team, after all. As always, conversations with Ying unfolded in stiff, uncomfortable silence. This time was no exception. Ying glared, lips curling in disgust as she spat an accusation. Pervert, Xiaoman, Chiu, and Aunt Han whirled on Lufan, demanding an explanation. Flustered, he clarified the misunderstanding. He admitted their first meeting had been unconventional, but swore he wasn't a pervert. With renewed effort, he coaxed Ying to join. Upon learning the realm offered massive express gains, Ying relented. The group cheered. Their 5-man team was complete. Without another word, Ying marched toward the realm's entrance. She paid the required points. Then, tersely, she ordered the others to follow. Lufan caught a glimpse of Ying's ID, 8,750 points. A silent realization dawned. Ying was no ordinary fighter. Her strength would be formidable. Inside the realm, Aunt Han gagged at the pungent air. Xiaoman and Chiu scouted ahead, wary. Only one path cut through the dense, sprawling forest. Together, the party ventured forth into the unknown. After exploring for a while, Xiaoman grew curious as to why Lufan had chosen this particular secret realm. Lufan had examined all the secret realms, and only this one offered the highest amount of experience. Aunt Han took out the food she had prepared and urged everyone to eat before engaging the monsters. It was a travel biscuit, a special snack that boosted experience gain by 20% for 1 hour. The recipe had been learned from a Life Profession Academy instructor, and many had failed to master it. Yet, Aunt Han succeeded on her first attempt, thanks to her hidden profession, Enchanter Chef. Eagerly, Aunt Han also offered the biscuit to Ying. Ying wondered if the cake Lufan had given her earlier was also Aunt Han's creation. Aunt Han confirmed it and promised to make more if Ying enjoyed it. Chiu assured Ying that Aunt Han's cooking was delicious and invited her to visit anytime she wished. Suddenly, Lufan sensed movement from behind the bushes. A monster was approaching. He warned everyone to stay alert and prepare for battle. A massive serpentine monster emerged before them. It was a black-scaled python, possessing the deadly skills Poison Fang and Death Coil. Xiaoman immediately stepped forward, drawing her sword. She slashed at the serpent, but due to the vast level difference, her blade failed to even scratch it. Aunt Han wanted to prepare a dish to buff their strength. However, Lufan stopped her and swiftly summoned his dragon. Ying glanced at Lufan, suspecting he intended to call upon his dragon. Her guess was correct, but this time, it wasn't Nyx. Instead, a small, adorable green dragon hatchling, Fei, appeared. Xiaoman was baffled. Was this the dragon Chiu had mentioned earlier? Fei fluttered up and perched on Lufan's head, amusing him with its playful antics. Both Chiu and Aunt Han were stunned. They hadn't expected Lufan to possess 2 dragons. Meanwhile, Ying silently observed. The serpent seized the opportunity to strike Xiaoman while she was distracted, but Lufan wouldn't allow it. He ordered Fei to use Emerald Light. The python's attack collided with Fei's barrier, completely nullifying the blow. The sheer force still sent Xiaoman stumbling back. Chi Order rushed to check on her. To her astonishment, Xiaoman found herself completely unharmed. Lufan reassured everyone to remain calm. Fei could handle debuffs and injuries, so there was no need to worry. Xiaoman marveled at the dragon's power. Not only could it block attacks, but it also negated debuffs and provided stat-boosting buffs. Yet the serpent gave them no time to retreat, launching another assault. Just as Lufan moved to intervene, a streak of crimson light flashed past him at blinding speed. The powerful strike pierced the python's skull, killing it instantly. The attack had come from Ying. She scolded them for wasting time and playing around. They had already become targets for the surrounding monsters. Ying was, in fact, a swordmaster, a hidden profession at level 21. Lufan was awestruck by Ying's overwhelming strength. He hadn't realized a swordmaster could be that powerful. Suddenly, a spider lunged from behind Aunt Han, unnoticed by her. Lufan shouted for her to duck. At the same time, Ying commanded her sword to intercept the spider and protect Aunt Han. The blade successfully blocked the attack, but failed to wound the creature. It was a silver-armored spider immune to armor penetration, with skills like Poison Fang and Silver Armor. Ying dashed forward to engage the spider head-on. The monster retaliated fiercely. Lufan drew his dagger and joined the fray, leaping high into the air. With a swift slash, he sent the spider crashing to the ground. Ying warned Lufan not to let his guard down and pointed toward the depths of the forest. Dozens of spiders lurked within the shadows, watching them. Ying summoned another sword, ready to face the swarm. However, these were not silver-armored spiders. They were black with crimson markings. These were black web hunters, capable of Poison Fang and Web Bind, a skill that ensnared targets in silk, ensuring death within 60 seconds. Lufan and Ying dashed toward the spider, intent on attacking, while Lufan's curiosity lingered over the swordmaster profession. Ying explained that a swordmaster could forge her own blade, but she must painstakingly raise its level from the very beginning, starting at level 1. As she dodged an incoming strike, Ying inwardly acknowledged this was hardly the time for detailed explanations about her class. From that brief description, Lufan deduced the swordmaster's role was strikingly similar to his own as a dragon tamer. The only difference lay in their focus. Where the dragon tamer nurtured a draconic companion, the swordmaster honed her weapon. Lufan's attention snapped back when he spotted the silver-armored spider lunging at Ying from behind. Without hesitation, he intercepted the attack, shielding Ying, then commanded Fei to cast Emerald Light upon her. Empowered by the 30% attack boost, Ying seized the moment and swung her sword, Mountain Shaker, with lethal precision. The blade dealt 20% physical damage to its target while scattering 2% as splash damage to nearby foes. A single devastating strike brought the silver-armored spider crashing down. Gratitude warmed Ying's voice as she thanked Lufan for the buff. Silently, Lufan marveled at the sword's sheer penetrative force, just as Fei's form shimmered, ascending to level 2. Suddenly, Auntie Han's terrified shriek pierced the air. She stood encircled by monstrous spiders, with Chiu and Xiaoman desperately holding the line. Lufan urged Ying to hunt down the black web hunter alone while he rushed to aid the others. But Ying remained motionless, silent, an indescribable emotion tightening her chest. Her gaze traced their coordinated battle, how they moved as one, shielding each other without hesitation. A strange warmth bloomed within her. She'd always scorned teamwork, believing others would only slow her down. Yet here, distraction cost her. A web shot from the shadows, ensnaring her from behind. Luck intervened. The lingering emerald light absorbed the attack, sparing her. Ying sprinted deeper into the forest, drawing the monsters away. Lufan shouted for her to stop. It was suicide. For a heartbeat, Lufan stood paralyzed, uncertainty clawing at him. Then Chiu and Xiaoman's voices cut through. "Go! We'll handle these spiders." With Fei's buff, they'd hold the line. Reassured, Lufan bolted after Ying. The forest grew thicker, every surface draped in sticky webs. When he finally spotted Ying ahead, the situation was dire. Lufan ordered Fei to renew Emerald Light on Ying, but Ying refused. She gritted out, determined to face the spider alone. Too late, the monster unleashed Web Bind, its threads coiling around Ying. The curse would kill her in 60 seconds. "Focus!" Lufan's voice snapped Ying from panic. He barked instructions, mimicked his movements, then activated Dragon Transformation. Scales rippled over his arm, morphing into a draconic claw. With a roar, he tore into the black web spider. The beast staggered, wounded deeply, and Ying's sword, freed from the web, clattered to the ground. Ying's breath hitched. Despite their mere 1-rank difference, Lufan's draconic strength rivaled Mountain Shaker at full power. She snatched up her blade and joined the assault, capitalizing on Lufan's opening. That gulf in power didn't breed envy. Instead, an unspoken safety settled over her, a feeling she couldn't name. Together, they felled the spider. Fei, now level 3, nuzzled Lufan's hand in delight. Ying's was somber. Once, she was treated as deadweight, saved out of pity. Lufan understood. Before he could reply, Chiu, Xiaoman, and Auntie Han arrived. The silver-armored spiders were defeated. Auntie Han beamed. She'd leveled up after years of stagnation. Lufan grinned at their report, then turned to Ying. No matter how strong Ying are, they'll never let Ying fight alone. Ying stiffened, as if struck by revelation. The doubts in her heart began to dissolve. Auntie Han asked why Lufan ever buff himself. He shrugged. Don't need it. Fei's area healing magic washed over them, painting Lufan's hair emerald. Xiaoman laughed at the sight, and soon the group's banter echoed through the woods as they pressed onward. Ying felt it again, that unfamiliar, comforting warmth. Having a team wasn't as terrible as she'd imagined. Deeper into the journey, Xiaoman frowned. Their path had dead-ended at a cliff's edge. But Lufan and Chiu peered downward and froze. Below sprawled a cavernous maw, the lair of the Hidden Realm's boss spider and its legion of minions. The swarm of spiders began scaling the cliff, advancing menacingly toward Lufan and his companions. Lufan calmly assessed the boss's status with his appraisal eye. The creature possessed terrifying abilities. It could devour its own minions to restore 5% of its health and unleash mass frenzy, commanding all underlings to focus on a single target while boosting their stats by 15% for 60 seconds. Chiu warned Auntie Han against looking down. The gruesome sight was too much for a non-combat profession. Yet Auntie Han refused to be a burden. She was determined to learn, no matter how harsh the reality. Her eyes flickered toward the spiders, but even the mere sight of them made her shudder. If she couldn't endure this, she truly would become deadweight. Just as Chiu predicted, Auntie Han's stomach revolted. She doubled over, retching violently, while Lufan could only offer an awkward chuckle at his aunt's distress. Ying suggested clearing out the spider minions first, but Xiaoman hesitated. Other teams had taken at least 4 days to execute such a strategy. Auntie Han paled. She'd only packed 1 day's worth of rations. Sheepishly, she proposed roasted spider meat as a last resort. Chiu recoiled in disgust before she even finished speaking. Unfazed, Lufan raised a hand with unwavering confidence. There was no need to mimic others' tactics. The group exchanged puzzled glances. What was he planning? Without ceremony, Lufan summoned Nyx. Xiaoman's jaw dropped. This was the real dragon Chiu had mentioned. Ying, too, was stunned. The sheer dominance of a true dragon's presence was overwhelming. Nyx shifted into destruction dragon form and tore through the spider minions like paper. Against absolute power, strategy was irrelevant. Annihilation was the only answer. Lufan unleashed Cataclysm, reducing the horde to ashes in an instant. Auntie Han gaped at Nyx's transformation, while Xiaoman murmured praises, comparing it to a legendary dragon. Ying corrected her. This power likely surpassed legend. Lufan ordered Fei to buff Nyx, and the loyal spirit obeyed eagerly. Fei cast Emerald Light, and Lufan layered it with Dragon Encouragement, amplifying the dragon's attack power by 30%. Nyx's aura surged violently. A single bombardment obliterated the remaining spiders, leaving only scorched earth behind. Lufan instructed Chiu and Xiaoman to guard Auntie Han, while he and Ying engaged the boss. Chiu nodded in agreement. Ying unsheathed her twin blades, falling into step beside Lufan. They leapt off the cliff, weaving past the dwindling swarm. Lufan called Nyx to shield their advance, and the dragon obeyed without hesitation, carving a path toward the boss. Meanwhile, Fei reached level 4. Nyx's wings formed a protective barrier as they pressed forward. Lufan glanced back at Chiu. Chiu waved him off. She and Xiaoman could handle the stragglers. The boss was Lufan's priority. Reassured, Lufan and Ying charged ahead, their resolve unshaken. But the spider boss wasn't idle. It spat a glob of thick venom, narrowly dodged by both. Lufan countered by casting Emerald Light on Ying. The boss retaliated with a tangled web, ensnaring them for 6 seconds. Lufan's cheek bore a shallow cut from the attack. He smirked. Nyx, burn it all. The dragon's answer was burning all things. A cataclysmic fire tornado erupted, devouring everything in its path. Ying's eyes widened. This power, it could erase a nation. As the inferno purged the remnants, Fei ascended to level 5, gaining Jade Blessing, a skill that layered 3 draconic auras, tripling attack potency. Suddenly, Fei began to glow. Lufan blinked in confusion. The light intensified, lifting Fei into the air. Then, transformation. A humanoid form emerged, adorned with emerald wings. She had the delicate features of a young girl, her long green hair mirroring Nyx's, yet radiating an ethereal grace. Like a healing angel, descended from the heavens. Fei, with newfound confidence, unleashed her newly acquired abilities. She bestowed upon Ying the Jade Blessing and Emerald Light, granting her both enhanced strength and a protective shield against attacks. Ying, seizing the opportunity, lunged at the boss monster. This time, her blade pierced through its thick hide with startling ease. Shock flickered across Ying's face. Moments ago, her strikes had been futile, yet now they carved effortlessly into the monstrous flesh. Her wide eyes turned toward Fei, brimming with awe. Meanwhile, Fei beamed with delight, basking in her master's silent praise. Observing this, Lufan had an idea. What if Jade Blessing were cast upon Nyx? The thought alone spurred him to action, but before he could act, the wounded boss lashed out in a desperate attack. Yet, the party narrowly evaded its fury. Following Lufan's command, Fei swiftly channeled Jade Blessing onto Nyx. Empowered, Nyx unleashed Burning All Things for the second time, engulfing the monstrous spider in a raging inferno. The flames seared deep, leaving the creature grievously wounded, its monstrous form writhing in agony. Sensing victory within reach, Lufan, Ying, and Fei dashed forward, their movements synchronized for the final strike. Lufan vaulted onto the wolf spider boss's back, his dagger gripped tightly in hand. With a fierce cry, he executed Dragonfang's strike, driving the blade straight into the beast's skull. Ying and Fei followed suit, their combined assault sealing the monster's fate. The spider boss let out one last shuddering breath before collapsing. Its reign of terror ended forever. As the dust settled, Lufan felt his power surge. His level now 23. Nyx rose to level 16, while Fei, still growing, reached level 7. Ying suddenly grew curious about the total score Lufan had achieved in the grand exam. Lufan replied nonchalantly that it was 1.3 million. Ying frowned. With his current strength, that number seemed far too low. But Lufan merely shrugged. He had conquered all 100 floors of the Heavenly Tower. That was the maximum score. With the battle over, Fei clung to her master affectionately, earning a jealous glare from Nyx. Lufan, ever the leader, urged the group to descend the hill. As they walked, Ying silently reflected. Though their exam scores were close, the gap between their true abilities was as vast as heaven and earth. Xiaoman eagerly rummaged through the treasure chests. Most contained gear suited for a swordsman, and Xiaoman, shameless as ever, claimed them without hesitation. Upon exiting the secret realm, they formally invited Ying to join their team as a permanent member. She agreed without hesitation, and the group chatted amiably on their way home. Back at Lufan's residence, Aunt Han prepared a grand feast to celebrate Ying's induction into their ranks. That evening, Aunt Han held nothing back, stuffing everyone to the point of discomfort. Nyx gorged herself into a drowsy stupor, while Fei had already dozed off mid-meal. In the following days, Lufan and his dragonkin continued their relentless leveling. Between battles, they settled back into the rhythm of campus life. Then, 2 days before the freshman evaluation, Fei had reached level 14, Nyx level 19, and Lufan, now a formidable level 25. Fresh from another secret realm conquest, Aunt Han, still unaccustomed to the grotesque environments, wrinkled her nose in distaste. Meanwhile, Xiaoman, ever the opportunist, dove straight into looting the reward chests, despite Lufan and Ying doing most of the work. Yet neither Lufan nor Ying minded. Instead, they congratulated Xiaoman on obtaining the venomous spider set. The set granted its wearer the ability to ensnare foes in webbing for 60 seconds. poisoning them for 5% damage every 5 seconds. Exhausted but satisfied, they decided to return and rest. Tomorrow's evaluation demanded their full strength. No sooner had Lufan stepped out of the portal than Miss Guhan intercepted him. The vice principal was summoning him. Something important awaited. On his way to the principal's office, Lufan caught fragments of other students assessing someone's strength with 73 Hong. Miss Guhan mistook his silence for unease, but the truth was simpler. Lufan had no idea what the term meant. With a knowing smile, Miss Guhan clarified. The students, inspired by Lufan and Hongwu's high-stakes duel, had devised this new system to measure power. Their battle had become the benchmark. Lufan was now the pinnacle, 100 Hong, while Hongwu languished at 1 Hong, reduced to scraping by as a cleaning service worker to avoid starvation. Later, the vice principal delivered grim news. This year's national exam would be held in the Kingdom of Tai. Originally scheduled 5 months away, the date had been abruptly moved up to just 2 months. The reason is Jin family's eldest son was poised to achieve his 3rd profession transformation within a month. Lufan saw through the ploy at once. Tai was rigging the timeline to thin the competition. Few rivals would reach the 3rd transformation in time. The vice principal's grim nod confirmed it. Most contestants still lingered at the 2nd transformation. The Jin heir would dominate unchallenged. The gap between the 2nd and 3rd transformations was vast, Lufan realized. The vice principal sighed, lamenting the blatant unfairness. He urged Lufan to withdraw. Worse, the Dragon Capital Academy had monopolized victory for years. This time, every rival school would target them ruthlessly. But Lufan's resolve didn't waver. This was his chance to rise to the top. He would compete, regardless of the odds. The vice principal's frustration melted into admiration. He pledged to marshal every resource to support Lufan's defiance. With a final encouragement, he reminded Lufan to shine in tomorrow's freshman evaluation. Dawn broke over the academy's grand stage, where the vice principal addressed the crowd. The rules for the evaluation were simple. A 2v2 team battle. First place would claim 5,000 points, second with 3,000 points, and third with 2,000 points. Students were ordered to form pairs and register by afternoon. The matches would begin at dusk. Amid the chaos, Lufan and Chiu reunited with Ying and Xiaoman. A brash male student intercepted Ying, barely finishing his plea to team up before her icy refusal cut him off. Xiaoman merely arched an eyebrow at the fool before herding the group toward registration. Lufan proposed splitting into 2 teams, himself with Chiu and Ying with Xiaoman. Next day, the arena roared as the evaluation commenced, fans cheering for their favorites. At the center, Chen with his armored dragon dominated. His latest victim sent crashing beyond the ring's edge. A flash of his dragon lance strike sealed another victory. The crowd erupted. 28 consecutive wins. Chen's legend grew with each bout. Jinzhu whispered promises of wealth if he claimed first place. Chen agreed without hesitation. Then the announcer's voice boomed, announcing the next challengers. Team number 1 of Dragon Capital Academy, Lufan and Ying. The audience exploded. The top 2 ranked students united. Chen and Jinzhu paled. Earlier, when Lufan suggested teaming with Chiu, she'd refused. Chiu insisted he pair with Ying instead, to keep their rankings intact. Xiaoman too declined, unwilling to burden them. Now, from the stands, Chiu and Xiaoman cheered them on. Lufan cracked his knuckles, grinning, ready to crush them. Her reply was as cool as ever. Obviously, moments before the match, Lufan was busy combining several intermediate treasure maps into a high-level one, while Ying watched his antics in utter bewilderment. Then, he merged 3 high-level treasure maps into a divine treasure map, and succeeded. The location marked on the divine treasure map led to a hidden realm known as the Flying Dragon Cemetery, a perilous domain for those between levels 45 and 60. Soon after, the announcer invited Lufan's and Ying's team to enter the arena. Seizing the moment, Lufan proposed a wager to Ying. He would defeat both opponents alone, without her or his dragon's assistance. In return, if he won, Ying would have to reveal all the characteristics of a swordmaster. Without hesitation, Chen seized the initiative, lunging at Lufan with lightning speed. his spear gleaming as he thrust it forward. Arrogance dripped from his voice as he declared he would crush Lufan and finally step out of his shadow. Lufan paid no heed to Chen's taunts. Instead, he reminded Ying that it was too late to back out of their bet before blinking straight toward the armored dragon. In one swift motion, he struck one of its fangs with his dragon claws, snapping it clean off. Chen's pride burned at the insult. Lufan had outright declared he wouldn't even rely on Ying or his dragon. Unfazed, Lufan responded lazily, calling it a small debt and sarcastically advising Chen not to mind them. He even mocked Chen, implying he didn't need his full strength to deal with them. Jinzhu, who had long harbored resentment toward Lufan, seethed further at his blatant disrespect. Chen, too, was incensed. He immediately commanded the armored dragon to attack. Lufan remained relaxed as the beast charged. With a flick of his wrist, he drew his beloved dagger. To him, the dragon's asymmetrical fangs were an eyesore, so he leaped and shattered the remaining one, fixing its appearance. The audience gasped. To Lufan, this fearsome dragon, which had crushed countless participants, was nothing more than a plaything. Jinzhu snapped Chen out of his daze, urging him to fulfill his promise and defeat Lufan. Obediently, Chen obeyed, thrusting his spear with renewed fury. The armored dragon unleashed a sweep, its massive tail whipping toward Lufan with crushing force. Yet Lufan dodged effortlessly, perching atop the dragon's broken fang with infuriating calm. He taunted Chen again. He wasn't even worth taking seriously. Jinzhu's patience finally snapped. She invoked a dark spell, one that racked the armored dragon with agony but drastically amplified all its attributes. Lufan's eyes narrowed in recognition. Jinzhu had used this very skill on her own subordinates before. Witnessing the situation, Ying jolted in shock and immediately moved to assist Lufan. But Lufan halted her. He had seen this skill before and remained confident in overcoming it. Jinzhu then ordered Chen to command his dragon to finish off Lufan. Of course, Lufan did not surrender so easily. He invoked the dragon magic he'd mastered earlier. The skill, Ice Dragon's Wrath, summoned a colossal blue dragon that unleashed a frigid breath toward the armored dragon. In an instant, the armored dragon was encased in ice, rendered immobile. Chen's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized Lufan could wield both physical and magical skills simultaneously. Lufan smirked, declaring that high attributes alone were insufficient to defeat him. Without hesitation, he lunged at Jinzhu, whose shock left her frozen mid-reaction. Yet Chen intercepted the strike just in time, barking at Princess Jinzhu to retreat. He then commanded the armored dragon to attack from behind, its draconic breath searing toward Lufan. Anticipating this, Lufan activated Flash Leap and Blink, vanishing only to reappear behind the beast. Another dragon magic surged forth from his fingertips. The skill, Blue Dragon King's Roar, unleashed a devastating tidal wave of lightning. The electrified onslaught struck the armored dragon with brutal force, crushing it into defeat. The audience erupted in awe. None could believe Lufan had withstood a direct physical assault from a dragon, let alone conjured rare draconic spells, without ever summoning his own dragon. Chen stood paralyzed, his arrogance shattered like glass, unable to reconcile the chasm between their strengths. From the start, Lufan had been puzzled by Chen's reliance solely on Dragonlance Strike. Now the truth dawned. It wasn't restraint. Chen had no other skills. Lufan coldly demanded their surrender. Chen's fury ignited. This upstart had barred his path to becoming the supreme dragon tamer, even dared mock Princess Jinzhu. Snarling, he urged the girl to channel her dark magic into him. He would fight to the death. Jinzhu consented without hesitation, her cursed energy twisting into Chen's veins. Rather than panic, Lufan could only pity Chen's idiocy for pledging loyalty to such a master. Chen's body mutated into a four-armed monstrosity, muscles grotesquely bulging as his stats skyrocketed. He leaped at Lufan. Dragonlance Strike aimed to obliterate him, but Lufan felt no hatred, only sorrow for the fool before him. Activating Wind Spirit's Whisper, his agility soared by 35%, his movements becoming a blur too fast for the eye to follow. Then came thunder fused with Dragon Fang's strike, slashing relentlessly through Chen's flesh. The blows left Chen grievously wounded, his body convulsing under crackling electricity. Princess Jinzhu paled. Chen, her last hope, had fallen so easily, and Lufan hadn't even needed his dragon. After Chen's defeat, Lufan approached the weakened Princess Jinzhu. Seeing him advance, the princess staggered back, hurling threats despite her helpless state. Hearing her defiant tone, Lufan, unimpressed by her arrogance, slapped her hard, again, silencing her pride with a sharp crack. He coldly declared the strike a debt owed to her elder brother, daring her to collect it whenever she wished. Though inwardly, Lufan doubted that brother possessed the skill to challenge him. His actions sparked fierce debate. Some accused him of humiliating a defeated foe. Others praised him for putting the haughty princess in her place. The vice principal promptly called for order, officially announcing Lufan and Ying as the victors. He then instructed Miss Guhan to summon Lufan to his office. Moments later, Lufan stood before the vice principal, who admitted surprise at his audacity. Striking a royal princess of Tai was no small matter, but that wasn't why he'd been summoned. The principal and vice principal had reviewed Lufan's performance and now requested his withdrawal from the school's evaluation event. Lufan stiffened, assuming they disapproved of his earlier conduct. The vice principal swiftly corrected him. Far from displeased, they were impressed. His rare dragon magic had caught their attention, and the academy wished to allocate a secret, high-level Secret Realms resources exclusively for him. The Realm Hunter Guild handpicked several elite-level realms for Lufan's consideration. He studied the options carefully. The staggering prices gave him pause, but the vice principal assured him the school would win the auction for his sake. Dragon Capital Academy spared no expense for national exams. They pledged to fully support Lufan's needs. After deliberation, Lufan selected the Flying Dragon Cemetery, a level 55 nightmare difficulty realm with a 2-person entry requirement. The next day, during the freshman evaluation match between Lufan's team and Feng Pavilion's, the vice principal announced Lufan's withdrawal. Whispers erupted among the students, unsettling Xiaoman. Chiu, however, urged her to ignore them. Meanwhile, Lufan and Ying trekked through the forest toward the Flying Dragon Cemetery. He apologized for pulling her from the event, but she dismissed his concern. The realm's rewards and experience far outweighed the competition. If anything, she should be thanking him for inviting her. Suddenly, a red-haired young man perched on a tree branch called out, beckoning them to follow. Lufan demanded his identity. The man grinned. Black Rat, a Realm Hunter Guild member. Without delay, he urged them onward. Along the way, Black Rat marveled at Dragon Capital Academy's resources, casually probing their levels. Lufan answered plainly. Hearing they were only level 25, the man paled. Something was terribly wrong. He yanked out his phone, intent on verifying with the academy. A mistake here could be fatal. Just then, a monstrous shriek split the air. A tree behind Black Rat exploded as a beast attacked. They barely dodged, sprinting away from the danger zone. Lufan whirled, unleashing Blue Dragon King's roar. The spell obliterated the level 50 avian monster in one strike. Black Rat gaped. Who defeats a level 50 beast with a single blow? Lufan reassured the man once more that levels were irrelevant and firmly instructed him to lead them to the hidden realm. At last, the Black Rat revealed the direction to the hidden realm, guiding them with silent certainty. After a brief journey through the wilderness, their destination loomed before them, a sight beyond imagination. There, in the heart of the forest, stood a colossal crimson portal, its eerie glow leaving Lufan and Ying utterly spellbound. With its duty fulfilled, the Black Rat prepared to take its leave, only for Lufan to raise a hand, halting its retreat. Lufan extended an offer of friendship and a proposal. The Black Rat would become his informant. The Black Rat's beady eyes flickered with confusion, its whiskers twitching as it weighed the unexpected proposition. Lufan clarified his intent. He sought not the hidden realm itself, but its location, and he was willing to pay handsomely for such knowledge. With a cunning smile, he explained the loophole. While the Hunters Guild forbade trading secrets of the realms, mere coordinates broke no rules. The Black Rat's hesitation deepened, its mind racing. After a tense silence, Black Rat named its price, 100,000 dragon coins, a friend's discount. Without flinching, Lufan agreed. The Black Rat's shock was palpable, but a deal was struck. As the Black Rat vanished into the shadows, Lufan and Ying stepped through the portal, only to find Ying already waiting on the other side, arms crossed. Before Lufan could assess their surroundings, the ground trembled violently. Ying's first thought, an earthquake, but the truth was far worse. A thunderous stampede echoed. A pack of dragons was charging toward them. Rotting corpse dragons. Their abilities were lethal. Pack bite, marking prey to summon the horde, and corrupt breath, weakening attacks by half. Lufan swiftly signaled Ying to prepare for battle, his voice low but commanding as the rotting corpse dragons closed in. In one fluid motion, Ying unsheathed her Mountain Shaker sword and cleaved through the first dragon, its corpse collapsing in a heap. Another beast lunged at Lufan, jaws gaping wide mid-flight, but Nyx answered his call. The summoned dragon gathered searing flames in her maw and unleashed a draconic breath, reducing the monster to cinders. Not to be outdone, Ying activated Armor Break, her blade ignoring 32% of the enemy's defense. The strike pierced a dragon's skull, killing it instantly. But in her fervor, she misjudged the terrain. Her leap sent her plummeting toward a cliff's edge. Desperate, she willed her heavy broadsword to intercept her fall, but a surviving dragon dove after her, its maw dripping venom. Panic flashed in Ying's eyes. Her sword wouldn't reach her in time. Lufan refused to let her fall. Dagger in hand, he vaulted toward the pursuing dragon and executed Dragon Fang Strike, splitting the beast in two. His free hand shot out, grasping Ying's wrist just as she slipped. Though startled, relief warmed her gaze. He'd come for her. With a grunt, Lufan drove his sword into the cliffside, slowing their descent before they could crash against the rocks below. As they steadied themselves, a new threat rumbled beneath the hill. Something massive. The earth split. A monstrous figure emerged, its hollow gaze locking onto them. Instinctively, Lufan shielded Ying. Sensing the danger, Lufan immediately called upon Nyx again, his command cutting through the chaos as the bone-clad titan rose to its full height. The dragon's eyes narrowed. The titan before them was no ordinary foe. It was a skeleton dragon, its bones radiating ancient malice. The bone dragon immediately lunged toward Nyx, its jaws widening menacingly. Without hesitation, it swallowed Nyx whole, the poor creature still alive. At the same time, Lufan and Ying had already ascended the hill, watching the scene unfold. Ying's breath hitched in panic as she witnessed Nyx being devoured by the monstrous beast. Information flickered before them. This was a berserk bone dragon, a creature armed with terrifying abilities. Bone armor enhancing its defense, bone blade assault, firing sharpened bones in all directions, and Bone Storm, a devastating tail sweep capable of cleaving through entire areas. Lufan reassured Ying with calm certainty Nyx would be fine and urged her to retreat for now. Without hesitation, Lufan advanced to confront the bone dragon, though Ying remained uneasy, her heart pounding at the sheer danger the beast posed. With a determined command, Lufan summoned Nyx, ordering her to shift into her destruction form. Suddenly, an inferno erupted from within the bone dragon's maw, flames roaring violently, a sign of Nyx's transformation. Nyx's enlarged form burst forth with overwhelming force, shattering the bone dragon's jaws in an instant. Ying could only stare in stunned silence, witnessing Nyx's terrifying new form for the first time. Lufan then called upon Faye, requesting the Emerald Blessing to bolster his strength. Side by side, Lufan and Nyx launched their assault. Nyx slashed with her draconic claws, while Lufan struck with his signature Dragon Fang Strike. Though their attacks wounded the bone dragon, the beast refused to fall. Enraged, it prepared to unleash Bone Storm, its tail coiling for a devastating sweep. But before the attack could land, a blade suddenly pierced through the bone dragon's skull. Lufan turned in shock to see Ying descending, her sword gleaming with deadly intent. She offered a half-hearted excuse. She had come to repay her debt, promising to reveal all the traits of a swordmaster. Delighted, Lufan welcomed her assistance, and the battle resumed with renewed vigor. Ying began her explanation. As a swordmaster gains a new sword every 5 levels. The weapon in her hand was her strongest yet, the Scythe of Calamity, an epic tier armament. Its ability, Sinful Burst, allowed her to alternate between fire and dark elemental attacks. Each kill permanently increased its attack power by 0.1%, and her current bonus stood at 8.9%. With a swift motion, Ying activated Sinful Burst, unleashing a cataclysmic explosion upon the bone dragon. Lufan finally understood. Swordmasters didn't rely on skills, but on the unique powers of their ever-growing arsenal. He then instructed Fei to bestow the Emerald Blessing upon Nyx, amplifying her strength. Empowered, Nyx gained 3 consecutive attack enhancements. With a roar, she unleashed Earth Shatter, splitting the ground beneath the bone dragon. The beast plummeted into the fissure, its reign of terror ending in an instant. As the dust settled, Lufan rose to level 26, while Fei reached level 15, unlocking new transformations. Yet Ying stood somber, her expression clouded with doubt. Had her presence even mattered in the battle? Sensing her turmoil, Lufan comforted her, reminding her of their growth and Fei's newfound power. Ying's spirits lifted, curiosity sparking as she wondered what abilities Fei had gained. Fei now possessed 2 new forms: Eternal Guardian form, granting Life Pulse and Eternal Guard, and Spirit Light form, allowing her to shift into spectral energy, wielding Spirit Shield and Spirit Impact. Lufan praised Fei's growth, prompting an affectionate hug, though Nyx watched with a jealous glare. Eager to move forward, Ying urged them to continue their exploration. But before they could take another step, a barrage of fireballs rained down upon them. They barely evaded, scrambling for cover behind a massive tree, scanning for their unseen attackers. Peering through the foliage, they spotted the culprits, a pack of dragonkin, another fearsome species lying in wait. After preparing everything, Lufan and Ying advanced to face the dragon monsters, followed closely by Nyx and Fei. Fei activated her transformation skill, Soul Light, shifting her form into that of a radiant spirit. She then cast Soul Shield, a formidable ability that enhanced all of the target's attributes by 200%, absorbed up to 10 layers of incoming attacks, and retaliated with the accumulated damage. Empowered by Fei's buff, Nyx's stats skyrocketed insanely. His strength, once a mere 4,000, now surged to a staggering 26,000. The dragon monsters wasted no time, hurling blazing fireballs toward Nyx. Yet, every attack was effortlessly absorbed by Fei's Soul Shield. After enduring 10 layers of assault, Fei unleashed a devastating counterattack, releasing all the accumulated energy in a single, overwhelming strike. The force was so immense that the dragon monsters were instantly defeated, collapsing like swatted flies. Ying was stunned. She had never imagined that dragons could be this unpredictable. Even with her Scythe of Calamity, she couldn't rival the destructive power of a support-type dragon like Fei. It was terrifying. After running a considerable distance, the group was abruptly confronted by the sudden appearance of a boss. A massive silver-scaled dragon with razor-sharp spines and vicious crimson eyes loomed before them. This was the Steel Dragon, a fearsome foe capable of wielding skills like Rapid Storm, Steel Thrust, and Steel Reinforcement. Without hesitation, the Steel Dragon shot forward, aiming straight for Nyx. Ying panicked, ready to rush to Nyx's aid, but Lufan calmly urged her to stay composed and not act recklessly. Fei then activated Emerald Dragon Lineage, doubling the potency of all her skills. She followed up with Soul Impact, a technique that gathered 1 layer of energy per second, maxing out at 60 layers. Lufan further amplified their strength with Dragon Inspiration, boosting all attributes by 30%. The buff sent Nyx's stats soaring. His strength now reached an astonishing 34,000. Fei and Nyx launched a combined assault. Fei fired Soul Impact while Nyx slashed at the Steel Dragon with his draconic claws. The attack severed the Steel Dragon's arm and left it grievously wounded. Enraged, the Steel Dragon turned its fury toward Lufan. Ying, refusing to be a burden, summoned all her swords. Determined to assist Lufan in any way she could, she swung her Scythe of Calamity straight at the steel dragon's head. Yet, the attack barely scratched it. Thanks to steel reinforcement, all incoming damage was reduced by 50%. Ying gritted her teeth in frustration, but Lufan remained unfazed, smiling as if it were nothing. He understood her determination to contribute. Meanwhile, the steel dragon opened its maw, ready to devour Lufan whole. Lufan called for Fei's buff and countered with Dragon Fang Strike, finishing off with the steel dragon defeated. Nyx leveled up to 20, unlocking a new skill, Intimidation. As usual, Fei immediately glomped on Lufan in her adorable way, sparking Nyx's jealousy. Ying mused that at Nyx's current level, he could probably one-shot the steel dragon now. Lufan simply laughed and urged them to continue their journey. Suddenly, Ying burst into laughter. Puzzled, Lufan asked her why. She admitted she had remembered something Xiaoman once said. Mimicking Xiaoman's mannerisms and speech, Ying put on a playful act, surprising Lufan. He hadn't expected her to joke around like this. Ying confessed that perhaps she felt comfortable around him. Lufan, in turn, complimented her beautiful voice, recalling how enchanting it was when they first met. Ying blushed in embarrassment, but Lufan continued his flattery, praising her stunning appearance. As they relaxed, Nyx could be seen teasing Fei as usual. Some things never changed. Lufan's curiosity was piqued as he noticed Ying acquiring a new sword upon reaching level 25. Ying confirmed it with a faint smile, unsheathing a blade radiating a soft pink aura. The sword, named Myriad Blossom, was of superior tier, capable of splitting into 1,000 blossom blades, each dealing 10% of the original sword's attack power. Ying wondered silently whether maximizing its upgrades could rival even a single strike from Nyx's devastating blows. Lufan reassured her, with the sword fully leveled, few students in the academy would stand as her equals. Ying merely laughed in response, her amusement light yet knowing. Suddenly, Nyx and Fei called out to Lufan, their voices urgent as they stumbled upon something peculiar. There, strewn across the ground, lay several lifeless bodies, adventurers by the look of their gear. After a brief inspection, Lufan deduced their fate, an ambush by monsters. Instinctively, he drew his weapon, and just in time, a shadowy figure lurked behind the thickets, its gaze predatory. The creature emerged, revealing itself as a draconic subspecies, a bronze dragon armed with the skills Bronze Armor and Defense Barrier. Before they could react, another monster slithered into view, a three-headed elemental dragon, its trio of maws crackling with the simultaneous power of fire, ice, and lightning magic. Ying's eyes widened at their cunning. These beasts had coordinated their assault flawlessly. The three-headed dragon began chanting, its elemental spells coalescing into a lethal storm. Nyx lunged without hesitation, striking one of its heads, but the blow glanced off harmlessly. The bronze armor's buff had fortified its ally, rendering the attack futile. Ying gritted her teeth. Eliminating the bronze dragon first was imperative, yet Lufan steadied her with a calm gesture. He urged her to stay back, whispering for her to focus on leveling Myriad Blossom. He had a plan. With Fei and Nyx at his side, Lufan advanced. His Dragon Fang strike roared forth, amplified by Fei's buffs, but the elemental dragon retaliated, unleashing a triad of spells. Lufan barked an order. Nyx unleashed her new skill, Intimidation. A suffocating aura erupted from her, paralyzing foes with fear, stunning them within its radius. The three-headed dragon stiffened, crippled by stun and fear. Unfortunately, Ying too faltered under Nyx's oppressive aura. Lufan urged her to endure a little longer. Seizing the opening, he drove his Dragon Fang strike into the bronze dragon, felling it in one decisive blow. Nyx followed, her claws rending the three-headed beast apart with savage precision. The monsters fell, their reign of terror ended by her fury. Nyx's strength surged, her level ascending twice to 22. Lufan and Ying too felt their power grow, each gaining 2 levels. Yet, despite the victory, Ying's disappointment lingered. She had contributed nothing. Lufan suggested they return to camp to rest, his tone gentle yet distant. That evening, Ying prepared the provisions Auntie Han had packed earlier, but Lufan was nowhere to be found. A gnawing fear gripped her. Had he abandoned her, deeming her a burden? Unbeknownst to her, Lufan whispered an apology into the night wind. He had no choice. The divine treasure map demanded his pursuit. As he arrived at the site, 2 colossal dragon eggs loomed before him. Their shells trembled, fissures spider-webbed across the surface, something stirring within. The eggs hatched abruptly, as if they had deliberately waited for Lufan's presence. From within the 2 eggs emerged 2 dragons, newly born yet radiating immense power. These were no ordinary beasts. They were Dragon King souls, level 70 of Nightmare tier. Their abilities were vast, wielding skills such as Elemental Dragon Breath and Soul Assault, among others. As always, Lufan remained composed, summoning his beloved dragons to prepare for the impending battle. The newly born Dragon Kings advanced, their hostility palpable as they launched their assault. The deafening roars of the dragons echoed across the land, reaching even Ying's location. The sheer force of the sound startled her. Yet she hesitated, believing herself unworthy of aiding Lufan, certain she would only become a burden. Memories of her time with him flooded her mind, leaving her torn and uncertain of what to do. Meanwhile, Lufan found himself overwhelmed by the relentless attacks of the 2 dragons. Frustration gnawed at him. How could these newly born bosses push him to such limits? They were even more dangerous than the world-ending emperor from the Grand Trial. Nyx unleashed Lava Inferno, engulfing the larger dragon in searing flames. But Lufan failed to notice the silent strike approaching from behind. Just as the attack was about to land, a barrage of swords pierced the dragon's body, sending it crashing to the ground, saving Lufan in the nick of time. Shock flashed across Lufan's face as he recognized the attack. He had never expected Ying to come to his aid. Ying snapped him out of his daze, urging him to focus. She would stand by his side in this battle. Gratitude and warmth swelled in Lufan's heart at her selfless act. Without delay, he commanded Faye to cast Life Pulse, healing their allies in an instant. He then bolstered Nyx with Emerald Blessing and Emerald Light, enhancing her strength. Empowered, Nyx tore into the Dragon Kings with ruthless precision. Lufan joined the fray, unleashing the arcane might of Blue Dragon King's roar. Yet the dragons refused to fall easily. Cornered, they activated Apocalypse Fall, sacrificing their very life force to unleash a cataclysmic strike. The devastating attack crashed upon Lufan and his allies, threatening to annihilate them. Just as all seemed lost, Faye invoked Eternal Guardian, a barrier that absorbed damage proportional to the caster's vitality. Miraculously, it shielded them from certain doom. Ying, her voice trembling with relief, thanked Faye, believing she had glimpsed the end of her life. Lufan, equally shaken, expressed his gratitude as well, tenderly ruffling Faye's hair in boundless affection. Nyx ascended to level 23, while Lufan reached level 29. However, Nyx sulked at Lufan's praise, feeling as though her master's favor had shifted. Sensing her displeasure, Lufan quickly showered her with compliments, soothing her wounded pride. Once the brief drama subsided, Lufan turned to Ying with sincere remorse, apologizing for leaving her behind. He had only intended to search for something, never anticipating such a deadly encounter. Ying dismissed his worries, recalling his past words to her. No matter how strong Lufan became, he would never let his comrades fight alone. After a brief moment, a treasure chest materialized before them, a reward for conquering the secret realm. With a mix of anticipation and curiosity, Lufan reached out and opened the gilded chest. Inside, he discovered 3 rare treasures. The first was the Soul Wings of the Dragon, a legendary tier item that granted the wearer the ability to fly and wield high-tier dragon magic. The second prize was the Dragon Rider's Peak, an epic tier artifact that allowed its user to ride dragons, enhance their attributes, and convert normal attacks into ranged damage. The third reward was the late Dragonbone Flute, also epic tier, capable of summoning the soul of the twin Dragon King, though it could only be used 7 times. Lufan couldn't help but lament the limited uses of the flute, a flaw in an otherwise magnificent item. Just then, Ying directed his attention toward Faye, who seemed to be doing something unusual. To their surprise, Fei was using Life Spring, a healing skill, without being commanded. The area around her began to rejuvenate, leaving Lufan slightly bewildered. Soon, they realized Fei was healing the giant sacred tree within the secret realm. The tree, which had withered from their earlier battle, slowly began to revive, its branches stretching anew. Then, from its rejuvenated bark, a single seed emerged, unintentionally triggering a hidden quest. Lufan picked it up, examining the seed of the flying dragon sacred tree, a quest item that required him to slay the Dragon King. He praised Fei, acknowledging that without her, they would never have discovered this hidden quest. Suddenly, a thought struck him. He retrieved the late dragon bone flute and instructed Fei to consume it using her unique skill. Noticing Ying's confusion, Lufan explained, Fei possessed natural assimilation, an ability that allowed her to absorb items and transform them into personal skills. Without hesitation, Fei devoured the flute and succeeded. Now she could summon the 2 dragon bosses they had just defeated. Eager to test her new power, Fei summoned them. The dragons materialized, but their levels had scaled down to match Fei's current strength, level 18. Ying, suddenly reminded of the rapidly passing time, urged Lufan to return immediately. However, Lufan insisted she go ahead, promising to follow shortly. As one might expect, Lufan had other plans. He intended to retrieve the treasure marked on the Divine Treasure Map. Several hours later, he finally returned to his room. There, he began lecturing his dragons like a stern teacher guiding his students. He rambled on, while Fei and Nick simply stared at the blue dragon egg in silence. Lufan expressed his desire to hatch it, instructing the 2 to be kind to their future little sibling. Confidently, he activated his dragon taming ability, but nothing happened. A heavy silence filled the room as they exchanged confused glances. Lufan quickly checked the system and realized there was a slot limit for dragon tamers, and a new slot hadn't been unlocked yet. He surmised he would need to reach level 30 and advance to his second profession to expand his capacity. With a sigh, he abandoned the idea for now and dismissed his dragons to rest. The next morning, someone knocked on Lufan's door unusually early. It was Chiu and Xiaoman, both women with urgent news. As soon as Lufan opened the door, Chiu informed him of the recent Feng Pavilion incident. Rumors were spreading. They accused Lufan of withdrawing from the new student evaluation out of fear of them. Still half asleep, Lufan responded with nothing more than a lazy shrug. But inwardly, he smirked. If they wanted a spectacle, he'd give them one. Borrowing Chiu's tablet, he prepared to clap back at the Feng Pavilion's post Game On. In a training arena, several individuals could be seen honing their skills. Among them was a disciple named Su, a forbidden sorcerer of the hidden combat class, who was intently studying a posted notice. He then reported its contents to his leader Jiang, who remained silent and unresponsive at that moment. 2 fellow trainees practicing with them abruptly took action, launching an attack against Jiang. In a flash, Jiang activated his skill, and countless spectral figures materialized around him. The 2 assailants froze, startled by Jiang's sudden severity, for this was meant to be nothing more than a routine spar. Yet the shadows struck true, felling both disciples in an instant. It was then revealed that Jiang bore the rare title of Shadow Warrior, another hidden combat class profession. Su, undeterred, pressed the notice from Lufan into Jiang's hands, urging him to read it himself. To their surprise, Lufan had openly countered Feng Pavilion's challenge by daring all its members to face him alone at once. With unwavering confidence, Jiang ordered Su to reply to Lufan's post, demanding he meet them at the arena after the finals the next day. Su, however, paled. Jiang truly intended to confront Lufan head-on. As it happened, Feng had already planned to engage Lufan and had instructed Su to rally every member of Feng Pavilion. His goal was simple: to prove to Lufan that the top rank was earned through genuine combat, not by relying on insider influence. Meanwhile, Auntie Han cautioned Lufan against overconfidence. Lufan, lounging lazily, admitted he held little interest in Feng Pavilion's antics. Together, they devised a plan. Lufan would disguise himself to observe Feng Pavilion's matches firsthand, assessing their strength. Upon arriving at the arena, Lufan's disguised figure lingered in the shadows, silently scrutinizing the battles below. After a brief assessment, he rose, intent on departing. Lufan expressed his utter boredom, declaring the matches completely uninteresting, as he decided to leave in search of fresher air. Elsewhere, the vice principal urgently reported Lufan's audacious challenge to fight Feng Pavilion alone to the principal. With a dismissive wave, the principal delegated the matter to Ms. Guhan, deeming it too trivial for his attention. But the vice principal fretted. What if Lufan, blind to his own limits, unleashed chaos? The principal shrugged off the concern. His true worry lay with the emissary from Dragon Capital, arriving soon to evaluate Lufan as a national exam candidate. The evaluator, he revealed, would not be Xiong but Changfeng, the very man Grandmaster Jing had once expelled for his past dealings with Lufan. The vice principal's face drained of color. The implication was clear. Changfeng might seek vengeance. The principal, however, merely ordered him to secure more resources to accelerate Lufan's second profession awakening. "I'll watch his match," he added, eyes gleaming. Such entertainment shouldn't be missed. The vice principal could only stand in stiff silence. Back at the Dragon Capital Academy arena, disciples fell one after another. One of the defeated disciples warned the others not to approach the gate, their voice trembling as they insisted that the figure inside was undeniably a master. Indeed, it was Lufan. Boredom had driven him to open a challenge room, wagering points to pass the time. Yet his opponents proved disappointingly weak. A waste, he sighed, regretting not leveling up in the secret realm instead. Just then, the arena door slid open, revealing a slender silhouette. The silver-haired girl stepped forward with graceful poise, her voice sweetly inviting as she expressed her desire to train alongside Lufan. Lufan returned the greeting by addressing her as senior sister. Noting his impeccable courtesy, the senior sister gracefully offered him the first move. But Lufan declined, insisting she take the initiative instead. She agreed, and in an instant, a blazing spear materialized in her grasp. Lufan's eyes widened. This was no ordinary opponent. An overwhelming aura of fire enveloped her, radiating an almost palpable intimidation. Then, like a flash, she darted behind him, poised to strike. The senior sister warned him she was unlike any ordinary student and demanded he unleash his full strength. Gritting his teeth, Lufan barely managed to block her attack. The sheer force sent him hurtling backward, skidding across the ground. His mind raced. Just what level was this woman? To his surprise, she praised him for enduring her strike, but her tone turned stern. If he continued holding back, she would teach him a lesson. Understanding her intent, Lufan steeled himself. This time, he would fight seriously. The battle resumed, a relentless exchange of blows. The senior sister moved with effortless grace. Lufan began to falter. Nearby students watched in awe. The woman who had just entered Lufan's training room was extraordinary. Most lasted mere minutes against her. Yet here she was, still fighting. Eventually, the Feng Pavilion match concluded. Su informed the others that Lufan had been observing them. Zhang, brimming with arrogance, taunted Lufan, daring him to face the Jiang Pavilion head-on the next day. Xiaoman blinked in confusion. Lufan had already vanished. Aunt Han swiftly pulled out her phone to call him. Meanwhile, in the arena, Lufan struggled desperately against the senior sister's onslaught. His disguise's hat and sunglasses sent flying. He hadn't anticipated her strength. With a flick of her fiery spear, she caught the fallen hat. A smirk played on her lips as she commended him, adapting to her attacks in just 15 minutes. But she chided him for his pitiful stamina. Lufan frowned. She could have ended this in 2 strikes. Why did it feel like guidance? Closing the distance, she teasingly nudged him, urging him to reveal his handsome face. Then, a ringtone interrupted. Apologizing, Lufan answered. After the call, he bowed again. His aunt was looking for him. Gathering his courage, he asked for the senior sister's number. The senior sister couldn't help but laugh in amusement, teasing Lufan for his audacity in asking for a woman's phone number during their very first encounter. She refused. If he wished to see her again, he'd have to open this training room once more. As she departed, Lufan stood bewildered. She was neither teacher nor student. He was certain. Suddenly, 100 points reflected in his account. Her concession. Proof she had only sought to mentor him. Heart pounding, he sprinted out, scanning the halls. But she was gone. Just then, Aunt Han's voice rang out as she approached with Chiu and Xiaoman in tow. Xiaoman tilted her head curiously, wondering aloud about this mysterious senior sister Lufan kept mentioning. Lufan could only sigh, defeated. The next day, the arena buzzed. Feng Pavilion members stood assembled. They waited, convinced Lufan would flee. Su urged Zhang to be patient. Then, a member spotted him entering. The pavilion shifted into combat stances, faces grim. They would not underestimate him. But Lufan seemed utterly unconcerned, casually biting into a piece of bread as though he had just woken up and hadn't even had time for breakfast. With an air of indifference, he gestured for them to begin quickly, muttering something about having more important matters to attend to. Jiang sneered at Lufan's peculiar way of entering the arena, but Lufan paid him no mind. After finishing his bread, Lufan commanded them to begin the battle immediately, urging them to attack all at once. One of the burly men, incensed by Lufan's arrogance, lunged forward, eager to finish him off, but Jiang stopped him with a sharp gesture. Done with pleasantries, Jiang coldly declared a wager of 7,000 points. Unfazed, Lufan drew his card and bet his entire fortune, 17,000 points. Panic rippled through the Feng Pavilion members. Even pooling all their points together, they fell short. Jiang silenced them with a raised hand, deep in thought. Finally, he agreed, staking every last point the Feng Pavilion possessed. A pleased smirk curled Lufan's lips as he urged them to begin. Expecting Lufan to summon his dragon, Jiang immediately ordered Su to bind him with his magic. Then, he barked at his comrades to attack Lufan simultaneously. Weapons gleamed in their grips as they awaited the final command. Jiang's voice thundered across the arena order to attack Su, swiftly cast Binding Lock. Chains of shimmering magic shot toward Lufan. The spell coiled tightly around his body, immobilizing him and sealing his skills for 5 full seconds. Seizing the opportunity, the Feng Pavilion members swarmed him, yet Lufan shattered the binding lock effortlessly, as if brushing off a cobweb. With a confident smirk, he parried Jiang's dagger strike. In a flash, he seized Jiang by the collar and slammed him into the ground like a rag doll. Jiang collapsed, powerless to react. Su and the others gaped in shock. Worse yet, Lufan had dismantled Binding Lock without breaking a sweat. Undeterred, Su cast Stiffness, a hex that slowed movement and attack speed by 75% for 10 seconds. The other mages joined in, hurling spells at Lufan in unison. Yet not a single scratch marred his skin. With Jiang's head beneath his boot, Lufan mocked their weakness despite their bravado. Su's confidence shattered. His spells, useless. And he was no ordinary mage, but a rare, hidden-class combatant. Lufan chuckled, explaining that his dragon's power rendered their petty magic irrelevant. Jiang, seething at the insult, unleashed his signature technique, Thousand Shadows Strike. The Feng Pavilion members cheered, rallying behind him, while Su remained paralyzed in disbelief. But Lufan, impatient, decided to end this. Raising his hand, a crimson portal tore open above him. From it emerged a colossal dragon, its scarlet wings wreathed in blazing fire. Nyx had arrived. Her mere presence shattered the enemy's morale, sending them crumpling to their knees. One mage, trembling, fumbled for his phone to record the horror. The scorching aura choked the Feng Pavilion members, stealing their breath. Su and the others trembled. This was no ordinary dragon. Compared to Nyx, Chen's resembled a mere lizard. Lufan leaned over Jiang, taunting him to stay conscious after all his earlier boasts. Nyx unleashed intimidation. The roar didn't just crush the Feng Pavilion. It echoed across the entire arena. Students screamed, fleeing in terror, some begging Lufan for mercy. Zhang, stricken by fear and stun, willed his body to run, but it refused. Defeat was inevitable. Overwhelmed, he collapsed, unconscious. With victory secured, Lufan happily claimed his spoils, 13,000 points from the Feng Pavilion. Praising Nyx, he recalled her, eager to leave for his next agenda. It turned out Lufan had opened the point arena to meet his senior. As he spoke to Aunt Han on the phone, the senior arrived, greeting him curiously and asking if Lufan had been waiting for her. Lufan admitted it freely, stating that sparring with weaklings bored him, but facing someone above level 70, now that excited him. The senior stiffened, shocked that Lufan knew her level. Then it dawned on her. Lufan had set the entry requirement, level 70 minimum.